Hey. Okay, so I try to keep an eye on what content creators such as myself for Darkest Dungeon 2 and everybody else, basically just we as a content creator community. I try to keep an eye on things that we are maybe missing or things that we haven't updated in a while. And I kind of realized that we don't really have any updated layer boss guides. And I've never even done guides on them at all. So not a lot has changed in the past couple years since there's been since other people have made layer boss guides, but a lot of things in the game have been updated as far as paths and as far as skills. So things that just make some of these fights a little bit easier or a little bit counterable to make your life a little bit easier. So I kind of want to go through them and just give my take on these bosses. So I'm going to be going through each one of these lair bosses individually in their own video. I'm going to break down everything that you need to know about them, what kind of comps do well against them, what kind of skills do well against them, what kind of comps don't do well, how to prepare at the end before if you know that you're going to fight it, etc., etc. So if you don't know who I am, I stream every day, twitch.tv/MarinerHawk. I have like 2,222 hours at the time of this recording, which is way more hours than any sane human should have. So I've obviously fought these bosses dozens and dozens of times, so I figure I might as well give some ins and outs of them and talk about basically how to have success against them as consistently as possible. So first thing I want to show you is I have this write-up right here. So I made this write-up. I talk about the loadout I have in the video. I talk about the gimmick a little bit, give you some numbers kind of alongside it, some of the code stuff, and I break down everything that's going to be in this video, plus a little bit more. Talk about successes, what heroes do well, failures, what kind of heroes don't do well, some extra notes, etc., etc. So this is going to be tinyurl.com/harvestchild. This is in the description. My Discord is in the description. My Twitch is in the description. Everything that you'll need. The wiki will also be in the description, so keep in mind this is the wiki.gg wiki. This is not the fandom wiki. So when you Google Darkest Dungeon 2 wiki, the fandom one comes up because they pay money for search engine optimization. The wiki got moved off that site because fandom is not a good company. So keep in mind, this is the wiki.gg one, and again, this is in the description also. This will tell you everything that you need to know, and I have some pictures that I took in the write-up, so everything that you need to know about fighting this boss. In case you ever want to come back and not watch this video again and basically just see some bullet points, you can check either the wiki or you can check the write-up that I did. So there are chapters in the video in case you want to skip around a little bit or you want to come back to something. Basically what I'm going to do for the next few minutes is just sort of talk about this boss, talk about kind of the ins and outs, how it works, etc. And then I'm going to actually fight the boss live as I kind of explain how to fight the boss. For what it's worth, I try to do these fights as bare bones as possible, so with as little extra skills as possible, basically as close to a new profile unlock as you could have. The difference with this fight is I did bring the leper because I want to show you what immobilizes can do in this fight, and weakens, immobilize and weakens, which you have, and knockbacks, which are very, very good in this fight. Plus I have some combat items that are later unlocks, because again, they do particularly good against the Harvest Child, and I want to show you kind of like their power in this fight. So how this works is you have the putrid meat right here. So this hits the front 2 ranks. This fetid meat right here hits the back 2 ranks. I usually call these the front meat and the back meat. So the one with the spatula is the front meat. This is the more important one, the one that really, really causes the issues. So how it works is the front meat is going to hit the front 2 ranks, and it's going to give a 67% chance of giving this hunger token, and a 50% chance of giving a vulnerable token. And the back meat right here is going to be a 67% chance of a hunger token and a 50% chance of a blind token. So these get 1 turn per round, and the baby gets 2 turns per round. So it does not matter where these stack of meats are as far as rank-wise. The baby will be moving up. The meat can't move up or back. The baby will be moving up. Basically, what the baby wants to do is the baby has 2 less powerful abilities, and it wants to get to the front and use Maws of Life, which is going to hit the front 2 ranks, and it has a bleed associated with it also. So you want to avoid this. You either want to avoid the Harvest Child getting to the front rank if you can, or prepare yourself in some way, as in like giving blocks or getting rid of these vulnerables or blinding it or weakening it or whatever. You want to make it so that nuke doesn't hit you as hard. So to give a little bit of math, so again, it's the 67% chance of applying a hunger token. The average hero has about 20 debuff resist. The Grave Robber has 30, a little bit higher. So if we go off of that 20% debuff resist, a 33% chance, or a 67% chance, excuse me, of the hunger token, it applying the hunger token, times basically an 80% chance of it proccing and not getting resisted by the debuff, puts you at about 53.6% chance of applying the hunger token. So that means that basically, you know, odds wise, every time that these get a move, one of these heroes within the 2 that gets hit is going to get a hunger token. Roughly averages out to that. So with these hunger tokens, what happens is the hunger tokens, if they get applied, they will move the hero up 1, and at the beginning or the end of that move, they are in rank 1. What happens is they lose their turn. They have to use Feed the Hunger, which is an ability that you target one of these stacks of meats. It does like 3 to 6 damage or whatever. It takes -1 stress. But the more important part is that you lose, whoever does that Feed the Hunger move, they lose 15% max health for the rest of the fight, and that stacks infinitely in theory. So as you can imagine, alongside the front nuke with Ma's alive, you want to avoid that at all costs. That is the number one thing for this fight, in my opinion, is to avoid losing a turn and losing that health for the rest of the battle. The hunger tokens can be resisted. The minus 15%, as soon as you are in rank 1 and you lose that turn, that minus 15% max health for the rest cannot be resisted. So you want to avoid heroes getting into rank 1 at all costs. If Grave Robber gets it, she's going to move up. Nothing's going to happen. The hunger tokens expire after 1 turn. So if it will only move you forward once, and then every round the meats will basically reapply it. So as you can imagine, debuff resist, very good in this fight to avoid those hunger tokens. The problem is that debuff resist is rare in this game, and the small handful of ways that you kind of get it are later unlocks. So apples and cheese is an item that you can feed people that gives you 5% debuff resist. To give you a little bit of math, I said it was 53.6% chance of, it's the 67% chance of the hunger token times the 80% chance of it going through the debuff resist. If you add just 5 resist to that, it lowers down to 50.3%. So by adding just 5% debuff resist, you make it a little more in your favor. And although 3% basically doesn't sound like a lot, especially in a fight like this, you want to make it in your favor as much as you can, especially with something as frustrating as the hunger tokens. Most of the things that are very good in this fight are later unlocks. So this is definitely not a fight that I would say if you are a new player or an early profile or both, probably most likely, I would say almost avoid this fight completely for 2 reasons. First of all, if you look at the Dreaming General and the Librarian, for example, the 2 of the other lab bosses, they're relatively consistent. You know what's going to happen when you come in. As long as you can play around the gimmick, you will be all right, and more often than not, you'll be in a pretty good spot. The difference is with the Harvest Child and with the Leviathan, the other lair boss, is there is a lot of, because of the in-fight randomness and the in-fight RNG basically that happens with these fights, with these hunger tokens, for example, you have to, there's the more experience that you have, the better off that you will be in these particular situations. And obviously when you're first starting, you do not have the knowledge to be able to play around these hunger token shuffles, even just something as simple as your Plague Doctor gets moved into the 2 rank and you can't use Battlefield Medicine. This fight can be extremely frustrating. A lot of the times, it feels like this fight is a lot of out of your hand, but also you will have a lot of fights where you just run over this fight and it's the easiest in the world. So it's the range of difficulty is a lot higher in this fight. So every time that you do a run and every time you do a fight like this, you will be a little bit better because you will learn something. Maybe it's just, you look at, like I said, Battlefield Medicine, for example. Okay, well, next time you fight the Harvest Child, you remember that moving into the 2 rank will lose you Battlefield Medicine. That's a really, really important ability thing that you really, really don't want to forget. Maybe it's just something like you have an ability that's a little more rank, or it's a little more, it can fix ranks a little bit. So you're looking like Duelist Advanced, something that moves up with the Highwayman. In case the Plague Doctor moves up, you can fix that without manually moving. There's a lot of things a lot of aspects that come into this fight. This fight will be very frustrating sometimes. I had my Hellion, this is like 3 or 4 weeks ago on stream. I had my Hellion. She got the hunger token 3 turns in a row, which means she never got a move, and then on the 4th turn she died. And obviously that's a very extreme situation, but there will be some times where that kind of happens, and it sucks and it's frustrating. But I'm going to help you. I'm going to show you some things that are very particularly good against this fight, that hopefully at least help you a little bit. Eventually there's going to be a point where the randomness and the RNG in the fight, maybe you didn't really have much of a chance, but hopefully you can turn the tides in your favor as much as possible. So some of the things that are very, very good in this fight, pulls and knockbacks, because if the Harvest Child gets to rank 1, you ideally want to knock it back, but if you can use like a Demon's Pull from the Occultist, right, and pull one of the stack of the meats into rank 1, That'll stop the Harvest Child, or at least delay the Harvest Child from using Maws of Life. And maybe if you are in a situation where you have like a vulnerable or something like that, where you really, really don't want to take Maws of Life, because it can get out of hand, it can save you from that and give you an extra little bit of time to blind it or weaken it, or, you know, give yourself some dodges depending on who the hero is. Hi, small little editor's note. I realized when I was recording that fight that I forgot to talk about something very important, which is killing the stacks of meat versus not killing the stacks of meat. So, you can kill these stacks of meats. The front meat right here has 51 health. The back meat has 47 health. My opinion personally, I think they're both valid strategies whether you kill the meat or not. For what it's worth, there's no reason to kill the meat that hits the back. Only you kill the meat that hits the front, because you would no longer have to worry about hunger tokens. Now, my opinion is probably 95% of the time I do not kill the stack of meat. I talk about this in the write-up, because I would rather just pump damage into the Harvest Child and get the fight over with as soon as possible. So the pros and cons of that, the pros are, obviously the fight's quicker because I'm not spending however many turns doing 51 damage to the stacks of meat. The pro is the baby has to move twice in order to get to rank 1 instead of just moving once. Because it gets 2 turns per round, if this stack of meat or whatever stack of meat isn't here, it can do Maws of Life every turn unless you react in some way. And that in itself can get out of hand pretty quickly. The pros to killing the meat would be the consistency, obviously. As soon as you kill that meat, you no longer have to worry about your front turns or your front rank heroes getting that vulnerable or getting the hunger token and losing their turn. The con is, like I said, the baby gets to use Maws of Life every turn. Basically, if I accidentally, through riposts or whatever, if I happen to accidentally get this to like half health, then I think maybe it's worth, like, if you can passively sort of do it, I guess, I think it would be worth killing it. That being said, there are some times where you're just going in this fight and you're just frustrated as hell and you're just sick of losing turns, and you can pivot kind of in the fight and decide to kill it. So that requires a little bit more kind of like experience in this game and whatnot to decide whether you want to do that or not. So my best advice would be, whichever way you go about, just commit to it fully. If you want to kill the meat, do it as fast as you can. If you want to kill the Harvest Child, kill as fast as you can. You don't want to get caught in between, because that'll put you in a situation where that makes the fight last longer than it needs to. For what it's worth, Jabroni, friend of the stream, friend of the YouTube channel, twitch.tv/Jabroni, he says he kills the meat every time. He kills the front meat every time. Like I said, it gives you more consistency. He's a very good player at this game. At no point would I get in some argument over somebody and telling them that they're playing it wrong if they decided to kill the meat. Especially for newer players, with this being just as frustrating as hell to deal with, it might be worth killing it, realistically. I would say up to you, whichever strategy you decide to go with. But I would say, again, the best advice that I can give is commit either way. Kill it as fast as you can, or kill the Harvest Child as fast as you can. Whichever one you do, there'll be some situations where it feels like the best decision in the world, and others where it doesn't work. But whichever way, you can make kind of your own call on that. I personally don't. Jabroni, like I said, very good player. He kills it every time. So to break down, basically what I'm running in here is all these paths are going to be Wanderer. Again, I want this to be as close to the like a new profile unlock as possible. And I did run the Leper because of he has really good abilities against this fight. So to break down kind of what I'm doing, I gave him the Milk-Soaked Linen, both because it's the Leper, first of all. Second of all, the meat blinds the back rank, so it's nice to have that. So I'm running Chop, Purge, Solemnity, Intimidate, and Bash. If you don't have these abilities unlocked on the Leper, don't worry about it. I'll show you what they mean. And then I am running the first 5 skills with Highwayman. So there's going to be no trinkets on anybody either. Just one quirk, one positive quirk, one negative quirk, and then as close to the first 5 abilities I can have. And I'm going to run Fisherman's Net. Fisherman's Net is an example of a late unlock that is really, really good against the baby. But again, it's a late Altar of Hope unlock. You're not going to have this for a while, so you can't rely on immobilizes. I think you have Bear Trap when you first unlock, which is a combat item that immobilizes, but for the most part, you're not going to have a lot of immobilizes. So that's sort of frustrating, but at least I want to show you a little bit how good they can be in this fight. And for the Plague Doctor, I'm going to be running Holy Water, which is unfortunately another late unlock. It removes all negative tokens, which counts as the hunger token counts as a negative. So I'm running the first 5 skills with her, and I started her in rank 3 because the Harvest Shot has 60% blight resist, so it's smarter for me to rely on the bleed damage and the bleed the incision damage just in general, rather than is to like a poison dart or like a plague grenade. And then Audrey, I have her in the back, and I have her medicinal herbs and the starting 5 abilities. All right, so let's get into the fight here. Just start doing some damage. Crit. Trying to think if there's anything interesting I can do. Not really. I can only, with this comp, I can mostly do damage when the baby's not in the back, essentially. So I'll go ounce of prevention, just a little bit of dot resists. Okay. Okay. Well, as long as the front doesn't get the hunger tokens, I don't care. Yeah, I'm gonna use these just for the value. We'll go ahead and intimidate, both so it can taunt and weaken essentially, and that's what taunt does, or that's what intimidate does. It's one of the later unlocks on leopard. Good one. I'm trying to think how I want to play this, because so basically what's gonna happen is Plague Doctor is gonna move into 2, and then the Grave Robber is gonna move in. On her turn, she's going to move into 3, which is going to put the Highwayman back here, which puts me in an awkward situation. So what you can do, and it is worth it depending on the scenario, is you can actually like if you spend her turn to get her back into position, I don't think that that's necessarily a misplay. I think that works out okay. For what it's worth, the Highwayman's pretty okay in the back, so I'm just gonna keep him where he's at and just start doing some damage. All right, that's not a lot of damage. Unfortunately, it's gonna get a Maz alive off. There's nothing I can do about that, but okay, hopefully this hunger token doesn't come through. Okay, good. Yeah, that right there, Maz of Life into a double vulnerable is not what I'm looking for here. That is not good. But fortunately, at least it didn't crit or anything. I'm gonna go ahead and intimidate again, just to keep the damage down kind of as much as I can, and more importantly, keep the damage down into one person. Banana. Okay, so he moves forward here. Okay, so with Fisherman's Net specifically, and with Bear Trap and immobilized combat items, you can use it, at least in my opinion, what would be aggressively or defensively. So if you look in the bottom left right there, Fisherman's Net, a combat item which is 2 immobilizes, -5 speed, and -33% bleed res. So you can use that aggressively, meaning you can use it on the Harvest Child, and it will have the -5 speed, obviously assuming it doesn't get resisted. It has the -5 speed for the next 3 turns. The con of that is the fact that because the Harvest Child gets 2 turns per round, it will go through that quicker than if you threw it on the meat that's in the front here. So you can either throw it on the meat that's in the front to lock it there, or you can throw it on the baby to lock it in a non-rank 1 position. You can go totally either way. The negative on using it on the meat is the meat having -5 speed isn't exactly the same as the Harvest Child having -5 speed. I'm going to go ahead and use it on the meat here.
Victory supposes strategy.
And then fix positioning a little bit. Alright, good hit. I'm trying to think what to do. So what I could do also is either I could go for damage or I can bash. Bashing, I guess, in this scenario wouldn't make any sense because there's already immobilize in the 1 rank. Get a little bit of damage down. So for what it's worth, typically I will only use the hunger tokens, or use the holy water, sorry, or anything else to get rid of the negative tokens if I know that somebody's about to lose their turn due to the being in rank 1. I don't typically will use it if it's in a scenario like this where it just screws up my ranks, but it doesn't really screw things up too bad. Unfortunately, the baby can't move up because of this double immobilize that I threw down. Get a little extra riposte damage. That's not too bad. What are the dots looking like? I will go ahead, because she's in rank 2 and can't Battlefield Medicine, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that, just to get rid of that. Get a little extra crit, hopefully. Stick to the face here. All right, never mind. Obviously, if this was like an Alchemist, you can imagine that this would be a worse situation because she wouldn't have Incision. But because I had happen to run Incision here, it's a little bit better. Go ahead and again try to fix a little bit. Try to fix the positioning a little bit. So you're gonna see the power of knockbacks and pulls basically in this fight. So baby here is gonna move itself into rank 1. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get rid of this milk soak linen. So in this situation, if the baby is in rank 1, if the Harvest Child is in rank 1 and you haven't the opportunity to do something with it, you can either like Demon's Pull, you could pull the meat up here and basically keep the Harvest Child at a rank 1, or if you have a knockback in some way, which is why I brought Leper, because Leper's really good in this situation. You can hopefully knock back the baby. There we go. So that stops me from having to eat a Maws of Life. We're getting really good lack of hunger tokens on the front ranks here. Okay, just looking at the turn order. Go ahead and do some damage. I will Duelist Advance one more time just to fix ranks. You see, I definitely put a high priority on... I'm going to use the Fisherman's Net. I definitely have a high priority on keeping ranks in a somewhat salvageable order. You don't always have to do that, and you could definitely argue that I am playing that a little safe, because I could be pumping out damage with Pistol Shot a little bit more, but I don't really mind keeping things predictable as much as I can as far as kind of like rank order goes. If this is in a situation where I had like Pistol Shot mastered or something, I would probably be more likely to use Pistol Shot just to get the high damage out rather than kind of fix relationships, because everything's kind of on an even playfield. I kind of don't mind doing that. Fortunately, everybody's got hunger tokens, so this is going to be all sorts of scuffed here. For what it's worth, always eat the back or the front meat. Sorry, there's no reason to hit the back meat. So I'm going to Holy Water the Grave Robber so that she doesn't move up and screw up. She doesn't move the Leper into rank 4. As you can imagine, that's not really where you want him. The health is getting kind of low too. I'm also being kind of aggressive in the lack of healing. Part of it's because the Plague Doctor has been up here doing battlefield medicine stuff. Partly is just because I'm just trying to pump out damage as best as I can. So Leper, because of this hunger token, is going to move himself up.
Perhaps they have given their last.
I'm going to use this linen because I want the damage down. Unfortunately, if that bleed lasted one more. Alright. If that bleed lasted one more, we would have a kill right here. So you see, not a perfect fight, all things considering. I mean, we're one death's door check away from everybody living it. If I had a healing item, or if I was, there's a later unlock, later healing unlock with Plague Doctor, that would have been good. Or if she survived the 75%, or I could have used the Holy Water. I was probably, or not the Medicinal Herb, sorry. I was probably, there's really no reason for me to save this. That was probably a misplay, but other than that, I think that's a kind of a typical Harvest Child fight, at least a little bit. You might lose a hero, you might have to take a Death's Door check. There's just a lot that can go wrong. Probably should have fed her an Absinthe to give her a little bit of a heal. But I really wanted to get out of that fight. If that bleed lasted one more, it would have been a kill. So that was very close to lose a hero. That's the shenanigans of this fight, though. And that's why you want to have as many, obviously, as many trinkets, mastery points, you know, good abilities, food. I didn't feed my heroes before I came in here. Give yourself as much as the best of odds that you can. Do everything you have to as far as, like I said, just being as stacked as possible. The Harvest Child is probably not one of those Region 1 kind of fights just because of the unpredictability of it. You can do it, and depending on, you know, if you do have decent combat items, you definitely can do it, but it's a little bit sketchy. Keep that in mind. You're taking a big risk. The earlier that your profile is, you definitely are taking a big risk in fighting this and potentially losing somebody or potentially getting wiped completely, but, you know, that's part of the risk. Maybe some memories, some better quirks would have saved this here. Probably a lot of things would have saved me, but very much is like a bare bones fight, pretty much, except for the combat items. And frankly, that went, you know, pretty all right. You get through a lair boss and you take one Death's Door check, especially when you don't have anything. That's not too bad of a fight. So If you have any questions about this fight, or there's anything that you want me to add to the write-up, I can add to the write-up at any time. Please ask me. You can leave in the comments. You can join my Discord. You can hang on my Twitch stream, where I stream every day. All of that is in the description. Either way, I hope I at least helped you. Hope I just kind of yapped and helped you understand the Harvest Child fight a little bit. I appreciate you watching. Again, if you have any questions whatsoever, you want any tips, please ask me. And I hope you have a nice rest of your day.